economy the world has ever seen, just as we had just a short time ago. We will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Great again. Great again.
Hey guys, welcome to the American Tribune Live. I am Todd Peterson, and folks, I woke up today and I had a different direction in mind, but I just had to cover this. And it's one of those like evergreen stories. Democrats wake up every day wondering, how do we court the young male vote back? How do we get male voters again? And I love the question so much because they're already breaking their narratives apart. What is a man, Democrats? Can you tell me what a man is and what a woman is? They won't and they can't, but then at the same time, they're going to try to win back the male vote. So again, there are so many circles that can never be squared with Democrats. I'm here for it. We're going to break down why men have left Democrats. It's actually really simple because men are not retarded and evil. Men want to take care of themselves. They want to take care of other people. They want to be self-sufficient. They don't like other people lording over them. If you've ever worked in HR and you've had a female boss, you know exactly what that means. Like, that is government. Government is just one giant HR machine making rules for you, telling you to be less manly. And then they wonder why the men are abandoning them for an alpha male like Donald Trump, who speaks their language and speaks to their needs, which politicians have never done before. But we'll break it all down. We'll break down the Democrat platform. Again, this is free advice for Democrats. I don't want to be doing this, but I'm also not worried about Democrats listening to this message, because Democrats worship equity and DEI and racism, and they worship the feminine energy. So even if they could hear the message, it wouldn't seek in because it is a religion to them. It is everything that goes against what they believe. If I told you, you can't believe that Jesus died for your sins anymore, he was crucified, he rose from the dead, he ascended into heaven to sit with his Father, you'd listen to that, but you'd be like, this is all nonsense. This is how Democrats operate. I can tell them why they're losing male votes. I can tell them what a male is, by the way. And it won't matter because this is a religious argument. This is not political anymore. This is philosophical. This is foundational to them. So I can tell them, Dems, you will never win the male vote again if you promote abortion, if you promote foreign wars that men will have to die for and get drafted for. If you promote open borders, men are not going to put up with that because they don't want to live in crime-ridden cities. They don't want all their tax dollars stolen from them and then redistributed to illegals. It's just not going to work that way. But Democrats are so committed to this notion. Again, it's religious. It's not political. I can tell them all day long why they're losing male votes, and they just don't care. But they're going to pretend that they know the root causes. Again, it's kind of like Kamala Harris going to the southern border. If she ever visited it, I think she went there eventually. But yeah, she was the border czar and never went to the border. She went down to Guatemala and El Salvador and said, I'm going to discover the root cause of immigration. And we were all telling them the root cause of immigration is that you invite them here. You have it set up that they can come here. You want them to come here. You've told them you want them to come here. And they're going to get all sorts of free benefits when they come here. But yeah, they're going to go discover the root causes. This is the exact same thing. They're out there pretending we're going to find the root cause of why men are abandoning the Democrat Party. And the root cause is already in front of them. It's because you hate men. Democrats will lose the male vote so long as they hate men, espouse policies that are anti-male, and they're not changing that. So of course they're going to keep losing the male vote. So we got to dive into this, folks. I am going to start off with an article. I'm on Rumble Studio, by the way, if you're watching the podcast live, if you're watching the video stream here. I have not figured out how to share my screen in Rumble Studio. I love Rumble. We want to support Rumble. Our channels are getting bigger, by the way. I'm going to just do a shameless plug here really fast, and we'll dive into the article from The Independent. It's titled, Democrats Spending Millions to Learn How to Speak to, quote, American Men and Win Back the Working Class. There's so much humor in this. Before we get into that article, though, shameless plug, I am on the American Tribune Live with Todd Peterson's Rumble channel. It's a separate Rumble channel from our main, the American Tribune Rumble channel. I'll drop the pod over there as well. But you can find all sorts of American Tribune properties. We got the two channels over on Rumble. If you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on Apple, I encourage you to check it out. I drop daily videos, up to 10 videos every single day, commenting on the news, commenting on articles that we have up at theamericantribune.com. You're starting to see a pattern here. We are the American Tribune. We've got a lot of properties over on Facebook, on X, on YouTube, on Rumble, on Substack, theamericantribune.news. One of our business partners, Will Tanner, actually just made an appearance on OAN. He was there speaking about South Africa and the drive of these Democrats right now to turn our country into South Africa. And there was no mincing words. It was a very blunt message. South Africa is failing because they are demonizing white men. You're going to see a pattern here, so let me bring this up for a second. Going after able white men, successful farmers, the Boers in South Africa. It's a black majority country. And you will notice that when whites are in charge, for the entirety of this country, we have strived. I've got to figure out the past participle of that word there. But we have tried to make life better for everybody. Everybody. Has it been perfect? No. But have we been moving in the right direction? Absolutely. A white majority country has looked out for the other people in it, to their own detriment, I would add. If you look at what's happening in Europe, if you look at what's happening in our own country, by the way, you can only be so nice for so long. And then eventually you get into the South Africa model where you now have a white minority. And there is zero DEI for whites. There is zero equity push for whites. There is zero affirmative action for whites. There's zero anything for whites. Do you know what South Africa, a country that is 93% black, which, by the way, if you go back in history, none of these are native blacks, by the way. The Dutch, the Europeans, when they settled the South African tip, there was nobody there. It was barren. There was no farmland. There were no cities. There was no society. There were no people. They found empty land and they built an entire community and country out of that. And then later on, blacks trickled down from the rest of Africa. And now they're going to say that this is our land and we want it back. And it's like, no, there was nobody here and there was nothing here. We built this. You are trying to steal what we have built. It's the same model happening in America, but they're chasing them out. 93% black country, and their constitution, their government says, we need to get ours. We're going to steal more land from the white minority. We're going to steal more means of production from the white minority. We're going to murder the white people in our country. We're going to commit a genocide against them. And so thankfully, President Trump is awakening eyes to this problem. He's bringing them here. I don't blame them for staying. That's their homeland. If you are a Boer in South Africa, that's all you know. That is your country. You are South African. So good for them for staying, trying to fight back. But it might be a losing battle, again, with a country that is 93% black. But once the whites are in the minority, again, there is nothing that goes in the other direction the way that we see here, where we have DEI to promote women and blacks and minorities and marginally oppressed groups like that. As soon as you're in the minority, they will squash you, because it is not about equity in the sense that they lead you to believe or that you might have some definitional understanding of. It is simply, we are going to get in power and we are going to weaponize that power against you and crush you. So Will Tanner, going on OAN, made that great point. It segued off an article he wrote for the AmericanTribune.news. That's our Substack. We can talk about things on that Substack that we cannot talk about on our main AmericanTribune.com channel. Can't talk about it on our Facebook properties whatsoever. But it was a great segment, great exposure for the American Tribune. Will Tanner did such a great job, folks. I encourage you to check it out. Search out OAN, search out Will Tanner, or go to the AmericanTribune.news and read the articles. He's written extensively about Rhodesia and South Africa, and it's a blueprint for what they're trying to do to America. That's the larger point. He's been talking about this a long time. It's now coming into like mainstream coverage. But what is happening over in those nations, formerly colonized, if you want to use that word, by Europeans, I would say settled and established by Europeans. Again, there was nothing there to speak of before they arrived. They built very successful, thriving communities. And then once those were built up, then the blacks decided that, no, that's our land and we're going to take it back. And they have run those countries into the ground. There is communist dictatorship, there is starvation, and there is genocide against these smaller white populations. And that is the end game in America. When we talk about making America less white, when we talk about importing tens, if not hundreds of millions of third world people, it's because they want to do to this country what is happening over there. They want you in the minority. And again, this is not some like, I'm white, I'm afraid, I'm racist, whatever. No, this is just fact. They want whites in the minority so they can squash them and use the power, use the system by us against us. So again, great appearance by there. Had to do a little shameless plug about some of the stuff that the American Tribune is working on. But let's dive into the article. So Democrats are spending millions to learn how to speak to American men and win back the working class. And again, TLDR, and I just talked about South Africa, it's because men don't want America to turn into South Africa. We can read the room. We see the writing on the wall. We see what they're trying to do to us. But this whole article is just insane. The things Democrats are doing to try to figure out why do we hate their policies so much. Everything Democrats stand for, I've made this point on my show before, every single policy advanced by Democrats is evil. It is the inverse of what is just and good. And men, if it's because that they think more rationally, sometimes I dig on women a little bit here. My wife listens to the podcast. Let me know how I'm doing wrong in the pillow talk there, honey. But every single thing Democrats do is wrong. And I saw this tweet here. I actually should have pulled this up here about who is voting. I'll have to play a video and then I'm going to search for the tweet here. But it was like, who votes for Democrats? It's like boomers that watch TV. It's middle-aged women that are on their happy pills. And it's on illegals to get free stuff. Like that is the Democrat Party. And then it's like young people as well. But they're losing the young males. But I thought that was kind of a perfect encapsulation. You know everybody that checks that list. Are you a boomer that watches too much cable news? Are you a woman? And we have, I mean, the stats are out there. Something like 60 or 70% of women that vote Democrat are on pills. And then, of course, you got all the people that we imported into this country. They know who butters their bread. They're going to vote for Democrats. And of course, that's why Democrats want to bring them into this country. They don't want Cuban refugees to be able to set foot on land. And they don't want the South Afrikaners, the whites from South Africa, to come into this land, because those two populations will not vote Democrat. But sure, everyone else can come here and no human is illegal until you might threaten our grasp on immigrant power here. Let me make sure that I got, folks, we are a live show here. I'm going to make sure I can set up our chat. Let me know in the comments below where you agree, disagree. There we go. We'll get that going there. But let's dive into the article. I promised this article, and I got a couple of videos here. I have titled the show based on an appearance. Her name is Olivia Juliana. She's obese. I think she's an immigrant, or she's at least not white. She's everything wrong with it. She is the Democrat Party, by the way, but then she's going to break it down how we're going to win back the male vote. So that video is hilarious, but let's read the article first. So it begins from The Independent. Democrats have blown millions of dollars on efforts to appeal to, quote, American men. They keep using this in quotes, American men. I would just ask the Democrat, what is a man? What is a woman? Who turned to President Donald Trump in droves on Election Day in the hopes of winning back the working class. I have an idea. Again, I'm going to give free advice to Democrats today. If you want to win back the working class, how about you implement or champion policies that support the working class? How about you don't invite tens of millions of illegals that are going to drive down wages and steal entry-level jobs? How about you don't fight for these insane minimum wage laws that just lead to automation and the entire decimation of industries? When I was a kid, I could go, it seems cliche, but it's like, I'll go be a cash register at McDonald's. I'll go do some pizza delivery. All these low-paying, entry-level minimum wage jobs were perfect for people like me that had no other jobs on their resume, no real skills to talk about when you're 18 years old. But then these insane Dems are just like, they need a living wage. You're supposed to make a career out of working the cash register at McDonald's. And it's like, no, that's not the point. This is an exercise, a training job. And if you're a retiree that supplements their income, fine. This is not a career. And guess what? When you go for $25 an hour, it's a lot cheaper to buy a screen that customers will just order their own stuff there, and you only need one cook in the back. So great job, Democrats. Democrats have spent $20 million on their efforts, with donors and strategists holding up in luxury hotel rooms, brainstorming how to convince working class men to return to the party. $20 million. I run this podcast out of a studio that cost, a couple grand for a nice laptop. I didn't have to spend that much. I think I spent $80 on the camera that I'm screaming into right now, another $80 for this microphone that I'm screaming into right now. They spent $20 million with the best and brightest minds, all these Dem strategists. Tell you what, folks, Democrats, the next time you host one of these, give me $10,000. That's all I want. Fly me out, put me up in a hotel for a few days, $10,000 check. I'll be far cheaper than this. And I will tell you, actually, I'm just going to air this podcast. Can you just pay me for this podcast? And I'll tell you how to win back men. How about you don't hate men? How about you don't push the feminist ideology? How about you don't push transing and stealing our kids from us? How about you don't push foreign and endless wars that we always go and fight and die in? Not me personally, I never served. But young men are the ones that get drafted. You can go to prison if you don't give them if you don't sign up for selective service. Again, they love feminism. They love women, treat everybody equal, but women shouldn't have to sign up for that. And by the way, I'm against women signing up for that, but you do need to point it out when it comes to them being like, oh, women are just the same as men. Like, okay, then they can sign up too. The plan, codenamed SAM, Speaking with American Men. Again, they just keep talking about American men. Promises to use the funds to, quote, study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces. Folks, I run a digital marketing company, a digital media company. We got Facebook pages, we got YouTube, we got Rumble, we got websites. We got the whole thing here. So we're plugged into what men are watching. Do you know what men don't like? Again, this is not a complicated issue. Men don't like everything that Democrats represent. You can't have it both ways. You can't say, I'm going to run my Democrat Party on these communist ideals of anti-white, anti-male, big government, confiscation of land, theft, and wealth, and then also we want to win the male vote back. Like, it's one or the other. Either you run on the communist platform or you win back votes if you're America first, like Donald Trump. You can't have it both ways. I don't even know if this is a serious study. I'm usually led to believe that it's just laundering money. Like, they spend $20 million to figure this out. I don't think they really care to figure it out. Number one, they'll just steal elections anyways. They'll import people and naturalize them and then give the illegals the right to vote, so the white male vote doesn't matter anyways. I think they're just spending $20 million to pay off donors. Oh, you own this hotel and you donate to us? Here, we'll all stay here. You get your little check there. You're a donor. We'll invite you to this. We'll fly you out. We'll put you up in the hotel. We'll give you a nice little per diem here. You can party for a couple days. I don't think they're serious because it's not complicated. If you want to win back the male vote, then you need to address male concerns. The males in America, white males specifically, but all men for that matter, have just been demonized. We went through the Me Too culture where if you're just on an app trying to talk to a gal, you get accused of rape. It doesn't work like that. Like, you can't try to win back our vote and then do everything you can to hate us. And here's, again, I think this is just how out of touch they are. But they said, I scrolled down the article, it says, above all, we must shift from a moralizing tone. Do you think every single man that is married deals with this? Again, it seems cliche, but it's the women, the mothering, the nagging, the moralizing, and men don't want to deal with that. Just leave us alone. It's really simple, Democrats. Just leave us alone. Don't implement these insane policies. Don't tax us to death. Don't threaten us with prison time. Don't call us a domestic terrorist for supporting Donald Trump. Yeah, don't moralize us. They spent $20 million to figure out that men don't want to be lectured. Again, this is humorous. It's parody because these people are actually taking this seriously. They think they're onto something that no one has ever thought about before. Hey guys, we cracked the code. We can figure out how to win back the male vote. Maybe we don't lecture them like some miserable wife. While the Democrat Party has struggled in recent years to maintain votes, the party hopes to be rejuvenated by the fact that Trump's popularity has been on the decline since he was elected last fall. They just say that as a matter of fact. Is Trump's popularity on the decline? Like, if you can't even be honest about Trump's popularity, am I disappointed that they're now saying that Epstein killed himself? That's what Kash Patel and Dan Bongino were saying. Am I disappointed that Bondi had the files on her desk and didn't release them, even though the files would have just said, like, he killed himself? So something doesn't add up there. Am I disappointed by Republicans in general that they didn't codify a single Doge cut? Yeah, I got things to be disappointed about. Do I regret voting for Donald Trump and wish Kamala Harris were president instead? Absolutely not. This is just a straight up lie here. No, his popularity is not down. Still, the party has been scrambling to find both messaging and a messenger since losing the White House and Senate while Republicans held the House of Representatives in the November election. They're scrambling to find a messenger. The Democrats have nobody. This is what's insane. No matter who they run. Oh, we got Kagan Girl in the chat. Yeah, I want to pop this up. Actually, I'm trying to... Kagan Girl, I see your chat. I am trying to pop it up in the feed there. And I don't see it. I'm sorry, Kagan Girl, but I see your chat. Good morning to you as well. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, Democrats are struggling for a messenger. They had Kamala Harris as their nominee. That's about as bad as it gets. And I'm still convinced that they ran Kamala Harris just to get her out of there. Now, it seems like the plan... I'll just segue on this for a second. Seems like the plan the whole time was for Joe Biden to get reelected illegitimately because he wasn't going to win a fair election and then install Kamala Harris. But if that was the plan, I'm still not sure why they waited to do it. I don't know if it was hubris or overconfidence. They're like, yeah, we're definitely going to win re-election on these horrible policies. We're going to lose the male vote because it turns out men don't like open borders. They don't like endless wars. They don't like high taxation. They don't like criminals getting released on the streets. They don't like all this abortion stuff we're pushing. Because it turns out men like being dads. Being a dad is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Just a little humble brag for a second. I'm not really great at anything. I do some things that are okay. Not good at anything, but I am a damn good father. That's all men want to be. We always talk about like women's clock is ticking. Women have these maternal urges, and they do. But it turns out so do men. Men want to be fathers. Being a father makes you a better human being. It makes you a better person. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And this abortion debate is just like men don't get a say. Women will decide if they're going to murder their baby or not. Screw the guy's opinion and all of that. And yes, I understand men also push for abortions. That's the unspoken thing when it comes to the abortion thing. Cernovich on X is saying like half of abortions are because the men are pushing it. I would guess that those are Democrat voter men, by the way, because a real man does not support the murder of their child. But I'm surprised they didn't do Joe Biden's coup in the first round. Like, he had cancer the whole time. This just came out. So Joe Biden had cancer. They easily could have been like, yeah, Joe Biden's dead. Here's Kamala Harris. They must have known they were going to lose. So I'm not really sure why the plan would have been to wait for a second term to install Kamala Harris, but it seems like that might have been the plan. But again, once Joe Biden lost the debate that they say staged before the conventions, which has never happened before, they just wanted to get rid of Joe. Again, they could have just killed him. They could have let the cancer kill him. So I'm not quite sure what they intended to do there, other than the fact that they just like, Kamala Harris is awful, unpopular, we got to get rid of her. But now who do they have in 2028? They have Jasmine Crockett and AOC. If it were me right now and I were putting money in the market, and I have, it's Gavin Newsom. They're going to demonize white men all day long. But the thing that they're not talking about this article is like, we just need to find the right messenger. That's a Gavin Newsom. He's a dude. He looks good. He speaks well. He's confident. Like, these are things that men look up to. Now, he could be an awful politician, an awful human being. The COVID tyranny and hypocrisy of Gavin Newsom alone should be enough, but then the wasteful money on homelessness, the importation of all the illegals, the high taxes over there, everything with California is wrong through a governance lens. So I think it's going to be Gavin Newsom. I don't know who else they have. They might try Pete Buttigieg again. He grew a beard now, so that looks a little different. But Pete Buttigieg is awful. Or they might run an AOC and just say, screw it. We're going to talk about getting the male vote back, and then we're going to run AOC. All right, let's get back to the article here. According to the poll, 40% of people either strongly or somewhat approve of Trump's overall handling of his presidency, while 56% disapprove. I don't believe polls. I especially don't believe polls when they're about Donald Trump. But these people, they're pretty optimistic. Democrats will have some real opportunities because Trump's numbers seem to get getting worse and worse. I will say, I think the midterms are questionable right now. I mean, Republicans didn't do anything to win voters over. That set aside, I don't know who is going to switch from Republican to Democrat. Like, if you're one of those fence sitters, you're like, I don't like what the Republicans did, so I'm going to try a Democrat. Just understand, every single Democrat is the same. They're interchangeable. No matter who you vote for as a Democrat, you are voting for communism at this point, because they're just going to be a vote for party leaders. So the idea that you're in the middle, you're an independent, you're free thinking, these people, they just like to think highly of themselves. I look at the candidate, I listen to what they're saying, when again, this is not a complicated issue either. You are either voting for communism or not communism. Republicans, we can complain about them all day long. They're part of the swamp, the establishment, rhinos, whatever the case may be, but they're not a Democrat still. All right, let's see if we got anything else in the article here. Voters are hungry for people to actually stand up for them. Oh my goodness. Yes, this is amazing. This is, again, what they spent $20 million on. We want someone that stands up for us. I got news for you, though, Democrats. If you are going to message open borders, soft on crime, foreign wars, endless abortions, if you're going to basically have a Democrat platform, it will never win over men. And especially when they talk about they don't want to get moralized and lectured anymore. That's all they can do, though, because Democrats think that they are smarter and morally superior. They think they are better human beings than you. They think they're the best human being to ever walk on the planet. No man is going to listen to that. They don't want to get lectured by that. You might have a degree from college. I might be out there grinding it out in HVAC every day, and you think you're a better person because you sit at a computer all day. That's never going to work for men. So this, again, they spent $20 million. $20 million. Kagan Girl, thanks for the chats there. Again, Rumble Studio. We love Rumble, but I'm not able to pop these up. But Kagan Girl writes, Trump is very popular. They are full of lies. Yeah, 100%. And again, you can quibble. You can dislike things Trump is doing. Epstein's kind of the easy one to point out. Epstein doesn't make or break government. Like, yeah, he didn't kill himself. But if they released information that he did or didn't, it doesn't really change the direction of government. The Doge cut's not getting codified. That's a problem. Republicans not codifying Trump's America First agenda. That's a problem. And Kagan Girl writes, I agree, Todd. He's ruined California. I don't know what Democrats can do to wake up other Democrat voters. Like, if you're living in California and it's a beautiful state, beautiful geography, it's a thriving area. I mean, there are a lot of conservative people out there, conservative companies out there doing quite well. But if you're saying California is the model we want for the nation, I just don't know. At what point are you like, maybe it's not? But yes, Gavin Newsom, horrible candidate, but he does the right thing. So I think if I had to make a prediction today, I think Gavin Newsom is the nominee here. And he's even walking back he's done interviews with Charlie Kirk. Kirk platformed him, and he exposed him for just a liar. Like, Newsom's own son is a conservative, it sounds like. He sends his own kids to private school. He doesn't agree with the trans agenda. So he's walking stuff back to seem more moderate. So I think he's positioning himself already. And they just kind of glossed over the fire. Notice how Gavin Newsom didn't get blamed for the Palisades fire, the LA fires. what was her name? Karen Bass, the mayor of LA. They went after the DEI chiefs over there. You had all these like large women firefighting. All the dudes are on the front lines, but then in making six figures, you have all these frumpy lesbians that just completely mismanaged. And again, you want to talk about managing wildfires. You allow water to go down to Southern California. You don't prioritize the delta smelt. You do controlled burns. You clear brush. You do common sense things so these fires can't get out of hand. Because again, the irony with the fire was we don't clear the brush and we don't cut down dead trees and we don't do controlled burns because that's some animal's home. And then when these fires break out, it all burns anyways because it's a tinderbox. And because they're spreading so much more rapidly, you lose more nature, more ecology, more environment with the massive fires. And of course, when the homes burn, all the toxic fumes go up in the air. So yes, good job all around on Democrats for caring about the environment. Every single policy led to a worse outcome, but good luck trying to point that out to them. All right, we got to get to some videos here. This is really why I wanted to do the show today. I saw this clip on my timeline this morning, and I was like, I have a lot of thoughts about why Democrats are losing men. And so let's roll the tape here. Again, her name is Olivia Juliana. She is an obese, I think she's an immigrant. Maybe she's not. Maybe she's second generation. Doesn't matter. She is everything that is the Democrat Party. You will look at her, you will listen to her, and you will say to yourself, no wonder men are fleeing the Democrat Party. This woman represents the Democrat Party. It is everything that is not strong alpha male energy. And they're going to spend $20 million trying to figure out how to crack the code here. So let's just listen to this interview. I won't even set it up for context. This is a real interview. This is a person that thinks she has real ideas. Take a listen. And that video didn't load, so we are adding it again. Boy, this is what happens when you do a live show, apparently. The video now doesn't want to load up in our platform. So much for Rumble Studio Day. Let's see if we can do Tim Walz really fast. It seems that our videos do not want to play today. I think I can put up the audio. Let's just see if we can do audio here.
The reason why Republican messaging resonates with men is because men want bad things, right? It's like men want to have sex and like own women, right? Like they want to dominate everybody. And Republicans say, you get to do that. And then Democrats can't say that. So we just lost men. It's over, right?
There it is. That I don't know if you can hear the folks very well in the audio. For some reason, Rumble Studio is not letting me play or upload videos. It's not displaying the chats today. So great job, Rumble. But free speech platform, it's not YouTube, although I am streaming on YouTube. I can't believe I'm allowed to say what I'm saying here. But his summary, his thesis of what Republicans represent, and this is what they're so wrong about, but they're so convinced in believing it. Men just want to have their way with women and subjugate them. And the Republican Party says you should be able to do that. Not a single man that voted for Donald Trump is like, I voted for Donald Trump because I want to run a harem. I want to be able to abuse my wife. I want her to force her to have sex with me whenever I want, apparently. And that's the model for the Republican Party. Strong men, here's the difference. A strong man does not equate to abusing or making a weak woman. Men and women have very unique differences. You can be a strong woman. No one is saying you can't be a strong woman. What we don't like, though, is when you take all of the male attributes, characteristics. If you've ever seen a remake of a Disney movie lately, all they do is girl boss their way into a male role, and they have none of the faults, none of the problems. Mary Sue gets used a lot here. They just decide, okay, men's traits, the traits we look for in a strong man, competent, confident, strong. So they just shoehorn a woman into that role, and they come off as just some obnoxious girl boss that never makes mistakes. This is not a strong woman. That is just a man. That's a woman cosplaying as a man. A strong woman, you think about, I always use Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars guy. Full disclosure, I started watching Andor because I heard the good things, and I'm actually not disappointed by it. So yes, I have Disney Plus. Yes, I'm watching Disney Star Wars. Andor is not the worst show I've ever seen, so I'm enjoying it right now. But you go back in time and you look at Leia. Leia was a strong woman, and she wasn't a male figure. She was just a strong woman. She had her own traits that made her good. She was confident in her own way. She was resourceful in her own way. She fought in a way that made sense for a woman to fight. She still allowed help from men, and no one thought at the time like this is just some weak woman getting paraded around, dragged around by Luke and Han. She did her own thing. She had her own autonomy. She had her own independence, and she fit into the storyline. You can make a strong woman without just replacing men and then shoving a woman into the role here. But yes, the thesis here is that strong men just want to subjugate and hurt women and control women and own women, and they truly believe. So let's break this down further. Here we go.
What are you talking about? Like, a lot of times it will be men that are liberals who will like agree with that shit. I'm like, dude, what is going on? Like, there's a lot of men that don't think that way, obviously.
Yeah, you're looking at them right here. You're looking at all the Donald Trump voting men that don't think that way. And again, he thinks he's cracked the code, that he's a better person. Well, I don't want to subjugate women, so I guess I can't be a Republican.
That's just such a negative view to take on like half of the human race.
Well, I also think it's just so abundantly clear that the people who say these things don't actually spend time talking to young men. You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campuses, and I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys.
If you could see the video, you would understand that love only goes in one direction. None of these frat guys are loving Olivia Juliana. I will say that much here. And she could lose weight. She could be a nicer person. And again, she could have a personality. She could not be insane and controlling and this lecturing, moralizing harpy. But no, nothing about this is attractive to the college frat boys. So again, it goes in one direction. And I'm going to make fun of her for it, because she's making fun of them. If you're going to go after young men and accuse them of all you want to do is have sex with subjugated women, that's their view of a man that votes for Donald Trump. If she's going to make fun of them, then I'm going to make fun of her. It goes both ways. No more. As soon as I fire shots at her too, she'd be like, how dare you say that? That is so mean to say, as they just get done saying all these awful things about us.
And in that, I realized, like, even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. They're almost always pro-gay marriage. You'd be surprised at the number of them who support a Black Lives Matter. And so I feel like people just kind of lump them into this box when the truth is, again, a lot of them are with us on the issues. They're just not part of our coalition because...
All right, so there's that insightful analysis. I really wish I could pull up the video for you all. I don't know why it's not working in Rumble Studio. Yeah, whatever. It is what it is today. Yeah, Francis writes, as a boomer, I am unable to get these people. Francis, I am a boomer at heart. I have always been an old man. I think when I was in college, I already identified as an old man, old soul, if you will. But yeah, I am a boomer at heart. So I'm right there with you, Francis. I don't identify with any of this that's happening right now. But the premise of this argument, again, they spent $20 million in the other study. You got this gal that goes around doing something. I mean, her job is to be wrong about everything. But she says young conservative men identify with Black Lives Matter. Folks, it is 2025. BLM is gone because it was a corrupt organization. Its leaders stole all the money. All it was a shakedown of these corporations after George Floyd overdosed on fentanyl. They just said, don't burn down any more of our Target stores. Here's $100 million from Target Corporation. Yeah, I guarantee not a single young conservative male supports the Black Lives Matter cause as it exists. Now, do we want our police to not assault us? Fine, but that's not what's happening. Do we just want to be treated fairly according to the law? Absolutely, and you can see that that's not getting applied evenly. We don't want black, violent, repeat criminals to be sent back on the streets, and a never-offending grandmother who goes to pray at abortion clinic gets sent to the slammer. So we would love equal application of the laws right there. So no young conservative man supports Black Lives Matter. We all hated to see the looting, the rioting, the burning, the murder that took place. How many more people died because of BLM rioting than, you had one fentanyl overdose from George Floyd, and then how many other black people had to die as a result of that chaos? Support abortion. The abortion argument, in a perfect world, it would just not happen. Excuse me. But in just a let's move along world, Donald Trump did it correct. He sent it back to the states. If we had a national abortion ban at 12 weeks or 14 weeks to be on par with the rest of the world, I would hate it, but I would live with it. And again, the stats are out there. I think 90-something% of abortions happen within the first 6 to 8 weeks or whatever. It's still disgusting. One is too many. But if we just found some common ground, but these communist goons don't want to compromise, because communist and compromise are never used in the same sentence. They want unlimited access to abortion. Where I live in Minnesota, Tim Walz, and I had a Tim Walz clip that I apparently can't play today on the show. Tim Walz signed legislation that said you can allow a baby to be killed after it is born. We have stories of babies in the hospital room, and the law just says make them comfortable. It doesn't say resuscitate, it doesn't say keep them alive. It says you can kill them so long as they're comfortable while they are dying. And so we have 5 or 6 on average every year babies that survive an attempted abortion, a living, breathing human being, a newborn infant on the table, and doctors and the mom and the nurses kill it. So that's what Democrats want. They don't want to compromise at a common sense 14-week. They certainly don't want to compromise with us on the issue and say, you know what, it is wrong to murder babies. Maybe we'll have a zero tolerance for abortion because that would be the right thing to do. I'm even saying here's an olive branch if we can just be done with this conversation for now. And then over time, we will just change minds of voters and their appetite for abortion will get smaller and smaller. If we could do 12 today, I would take it. If we could do 14 today, I would take it. And then generationally, we would work on people to convince them to be like, yeah, it's actually horrible that you are killing your own baby. And we never talk about how the mothers despair for the rest of their life. They live with the regret. They know that they killed a baby. They would be a mother otherwise. They are already a mother when they get pregnant. And now they are a mother to nothing for the rest of their life. The despair that causes on women everywhere is certainly not talked about enough. But again, just to move on from the issue, I'd say 12 or 14. And that's how they obfuscate the issue. Democrats, when they implement these policies, go unlimited. 9 months after the baby is born, those are the policies they put in place. And so when she's out there saying, yeah, conservative men support, they're pro-choice, maybe pro-choice for the first 6 weeks, but they don't want to do 6 weeks. As soon as they get in power, they go 9 months. And so maybe be honest about that conversation. You're losing male votes because we don't want to be looking at this baby getting born and then slaughtered in the hospital room. That's not what they signed up for. They were under the impression that we are going to limit and bring down the number of weeks. Hey, we got Fally in the chat. Good morning, Fally. Yes, Kagan Girl says that is evil. It is pure evil. But again, as I've stated on the show, whenever I get a chance, everything Democrats run on is evil. I could be told, if I wish I had someone on Rumble disagree with me, I wish they would be like, Todd, is this policy Democrats have evil? And I would say yes. Every single thing Democrats run on is evil. It is upside down, is the inverse from goodness and justness. And then what's the other thing? I actually forgot what she said on the third one. I'm going to replay this clip here really fast.
Two young men. You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campuses. And I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I realize, like, even the ones that identify as conservative are almost always pro-choice. They're almost always pro-gay marriage.
Oh, the gay marriage thing. Yeah. So pro-choice, no, we debunked that. Men are not pro. You can murder your baby at 9 months. Again, if they were honest and they said, we'll do a 12-week ban nationwide, again, I would sign up for that tomorrow because it's better than nothing. And then we could work on the minds and the souls of people throughout time and slowly get that number down. But Democrats have 9 months. And so, no, we're not pro-choice at 9 months. That's just a straight up lie. She had mentioned the pro-BLM thing. No, that is just a straight up lie. If you're telling me, do you like police brutality? Then I'm going to say no. Are you telling me, if you're going to say, though, yeah, you support all the rioting and the looting that takes place whenever BLM congregates, whenever someone from BLM gets in a large enough group, I can just tell you right away, nothing good was going to come from this. And then they just stole millions of dollars on top of that. The BLM founders, by the way, live in white gated communities. So yeah, the white man is bad. But then pro-gay marriage. I was very libertarian as a younger man. I was even pro-choice as a younger man because I didn't know any better. I think young men are more tuned into what's happening now. But when it came to gay marriage, if the conversation had been, I need visitation rights, I want tax benefits, I need inheritance to work out for me, I am fine with that. The problem is they co-opted marriage. If they had said the state will recognize this union, you have a civil union as 2 dudes or 2 women, I could have maybe lived with that. I think I'd be more okay with that. The problem with gay marriage, though, is that it was the literal slippery slope. And now we are at the point where a dude can be a woman can be a dude. They are gearing up for, once the argument became love is love, there is zero limiting principle on what if an adult loves a child? What if an adult loves this pet of theirs? Like, there's no argument from the communist left about why is that a bad thing? So once you identify like 2 men just love each other, it's about love, it's about tolerance, just accept that they have a different kind of love. What is their response when you say, I love a child? And they have none. And I think that's what we're gearing up for. And it's not a conspiracy theory to say that, because look at what Epstein was allegedly doing with underage girls. All the elites were already participating in that, and they want to normalize it here. when you look at what is happening to people's kids, I don't know why they're still sending their kids to a government school, but many of them do. Maybe lack of choices, lack of resources. That's just what's working for them. I have friends that send their kids to kindergarten at an early age because they didn't want to pay daycare anymore, so it was selfish on their part. But you look what's happening to kids in schools, and hey, Johnny is wearing a dress today, and let's spend all day talking about how wonderful Johnny is. They're already grooming kids in the school system. Why wouldn't they take it a step further and say, well, my teacher loves my 5-year-old, and love is love, so I guess that's okay. So that's where the gay marriage thing went wrong, and that's why they were dishonest about it. If they had just said, I want to make sure that I can visit my partner when he's sick in the hospital, as long as he's vaccinated, because if you were not vaccinated, you were not allowed into the hospital, or at least they didn't want you to get treatment in the hospital. You chose not to get it, so now you can just choose to be dead because we're not going to see you. That's what Jimmy Kimmel was saying. That's what all the Democrats were saying. Every Democrat voter I talked about how the voting groups of Democrats, one is the boomer that watches cable news television still. I had those people in my own family shunned from every gathering, and it was no loss for me. Good, I didn't want to hang out with them anyways, but you didn't get the vaccine, Todd. You're an awful human being, and I can never see you again. All right, that's a fair trade, Brian. But no. The gay marriage, if they had been honest and said, we just want basic things. I want to be able to file my taxes jointly. I want to be able to see them in the hospital. I want to make sure my inheritance goes to my partner and not to the state. I can totally get on board with that. If that's where they had left it, that would have been fine. But they didn't make that argument. The gay marriage argument said love is love. You can't question it. And of course, there was no limiting principle on everything else that has happened since then. Is it any wonder that in 2025, we're talking about dudes playing in women's sports, getting naked in their locker rooms, grown men changing in front of little girls in a locker room, the indoctrination that is taking place in our government school system with the LGBTQ agenda. And that's not even talking about the you're white, so you're an awful 5-year-old agenda. But it's all one and the same. And it's because we legalized gay marriage, because there was suddenly no argument against it. Well, they love each other and they were born that way. And so now you're a man trapped in a woman's body and you were born that way. So we have to allow that as well. Everything that has happened in our society since 2008, when Iowa legalized gay marriage first, I think Iowa was the first state to do that. I remember I was actually teaching English in Peru at the time. I was not plugged in at all politically, but I was with, now I know better, they were just super woke and they were miserable people. They hosted a party for the legalization of gay marriage in Iowa. And I remember going to that thinking like, this is probably not a good thing. Dudes that want to be together, fine. I think, when it comes to being gay too, interesting enough, I think dudes are probably born that way. If you've met a really gay man, you're just like, this is who you are. Gay women, it's a different conversation. I don't know if women are born necessarily gay like that, but that's a kind of an interesting psychological deep dive to go down. But fine, that you're gay, no question about it. There have always been homosexuals in society. I do not hate you because you're gay, but I do hate the fact that we have now weaponized the idea of marriage. You have overturned the idea of marriage that is a sacred union between a man and a woman whose sole purpose is the procreation and raising of children. That is the nuclear family in a nutshell. One man, one woman coming together to create kids and create a stable environment for those kids to grow up. That is it. That is not a marriage if you have two dudes. And then it gets even worse because they're allowed to adopt kids. They're allowed to steal a brand new baby from the woman, the surrogate mother, and then raise them as their own. I look at the images of Pete Buttigieg and his partner. I always forget the name of his partner that he rides a bike with. And he put on the fake nipple suit for the baby. That is pure evil when two gay dudes can rip a child away from a mother. That poor kid never stands a chance. You think about all the critical bonding that they will never experience with their mother, nursing with their mother, listening to their mother, speaking to their mother. I mean, the bonds that you create in utero, and it's just torn away from you instantly so you can satisfy the needs of two gay dudes. You want to be gay? That's fine. You want to get married as a gay dude? That's fine. You want to be a parent? No. That ship has sailed. You signed up for your gay marriage. There is no possibility of you having kids. You need to live with that. How dare you rip away the child from a mother? And how dare these women sign up for surrogacy in the first place to be like, I'm totally fine with my baby getting stolen from me. Abortion is bad. No question about that. But we need to be talking more about surrogacy for these gay couples. You want to have a kid? Try adopting a kid. But even then, we have seen enough evidence come out that maybe gay couples shouldn't be around kids anyways. I got to go through the comments here. I was fired up here. We've been ranting a lot today. Kagan Girl says, schools are ruining our kids. They're brainwashing them. I will comment on that. I think if you watch the show, you know that I'm a former assistant principal. I had my whole career planned out. I was a teacher for a while. I was an assistant principal for a couple years. And I was applying to principal jobs. And then COVID and BLM and George Floyd and the tranny stuff came up in the school system. And I was like, I can't be part of this. And there was really no way for a principal to make any decisions. As soon as I became an administrator, I realized that you go to these district office meetings and nobody is really in charge. All I knew was that I wasn't in charge. My principal, I worked for some very great principals. I have nothing bad to say about any of the people I worked with. They were great leaders, decision makers. They had the right vision for the school. But again, their hands are tied. What are they going to do? You have to play politics the entire time. You're only allowed to think one way. And then you go to these leadership meetings, and it turns out everything you do as a principal, you're taking all the bullets from the parents and the teachers and the kids, and you're just doing what the superintendent told you. And the superintendent's kind of in charge too, but then they're nominally responsible to the school board. It's just some one big circle jerk of no one ever being responsible. But yes, the things you do to kids in the school system are tragic. The thing that really made me quit, as the administrator of a school, we had a 9-year-old Hispanic girl. Her mom didn't speak English, and they're Catholic. I assume they're Catholic. And this girl was starting to question her identity. And so we had our gifted and talented teacher, because of course we did. We had other adults, because there's so many adults that work in the school system now that aren't directly in the classroom with kids. You want better outcomes? How about you get rid of all these superfluous positions and just hire more teachers? But we had all these positions there, and they convinced this girl that she should be questioning her identity. And I was supposed to be the administrator that represented leadership, administration, as we're telling this parent what it means for her girl to be questioning her identity as a 9-year-old. This woman, again, from Mexico, this is the crazy, like, these people before coming to America had no idea this was a thing. You're a girl, you're a girl. Like, what are we talking about here? But now everyone's going around the table helping her understand the dynamics of the situation, that she has a 9-year-old that thought she was a girl, and now she's questioning. She's not really a boy yet, but she's kind of in the middle here. She's that non-binary questioning zone. And I am just like, I can't be a part of this. And so I walked away. I was starting to have my own kids. I got a 4 and a 2-year-old now. I said, why am I raising these people's other kids? I worked in the inner city, so you're basically the surrogate parent there. The teachers, they do a great job. Nothing bad to say about the teachers necessarily. Administrators, these kids needed some stable adults in their lives. But at some point, it's like, I can't spend all my energy, all my time away from my own family. I won't be raising my kids, but I'm going to be raising your kids. So I couldn't do it. I walked away, started this company with a couple other guys, have never looked back. It's been a great run. Here we go. Hey, we got Paul Reese in the chat. Good morning, Paul. Sorry, I was going through some comments there and I got some stories. No, you're going to accept this. F you. Yeah, I mean, that's basically, I wish I could really pop the comments. Let me know if you can see the comments on your side. I cannot in the Rumble studio today. Yeah, they always say we're tolerant. Yeah, Fally says you're going to accept this. Yeah, you're tolerant. Love is love. Just accept everybody. And then ask them, are you tolerant of me because I support Donald Trump? My ideas, can you be tolerant of my ideas? And that a man can't be a woman? That adults shouldn't be grooming kids? Their tolerance ends really abruptly. My sister-in-law, I've told this story before, I voted for Donald Trump proudly. I would vote for him again. I will vote for J.D. Vance when he runs in 2028. And my sister-in-law said, I can't talk politics. This was in a text thread that my wife and I won't talk politics with you because I can't separate Trump's misogyny and racism and sexism and phobias from you. So she called me a racist and a sexist. And in the next sentence said, I don't want to talk politics. But she was allowed to launch that grenade here. Yeah, but she's the one, if you go to her social media and you go to her classroom, because of course she's a teacher, she's like, love is love. We tolerate everybody. And it's like, you weren't very tolerant of me. But they don't recognize that either. Yeah, Paul says, good morning. Good morning, Paul. Kagan Girl says, hey, Paul. Fally says, my daughter went to college and came back sexual. She finally came to, or maybe bisexual. She finally came to her senses and realized she didn't want to live that lifestyle. She used to defend the alphabet soup until she saw how evil it was. That's a great story, Fally. Yeah, one of my business. So Jason, who I do Freedom from the Press guys, you know Jason. He was telling me the story after the show last Friday, how he went to a lunch or a dinner, sat down with a former coworker boss, and this person had 4 kids. 2 of them went to college. 2 of them went into the trades and built their own companies. And she said, Jason, I have 2 kids that vote Donald Trump, 2 kids that voted for Kamala Harris. And Jason is just like, I bet I can guess which ones. The 2 that went to college voted for Kamala Harris. The 2 that did not go to college voted for Donald Trump. It's not a mystery what's happening, not just in the K-12 system, but the college system as well. Francis says, I would have left also, referring to my departure from government schools. I was really good as an assistant principal. I would have been a good principal, but yeah, it was just, it was not the good fit. Yeah, Kagan Girl says, I can't see the chats today. Folks, I'm really bummed about this, but thanks for chiming in anyways. Amen, Todd, says Paul. My nephew went to college, got married, and then a vasectomy. Yeah, that seems to be Seems to be the course. Seems to be the course. Well, I appreciate you guys tuning in today and watching the show. I really wish I could play the clips. I had Olivia here. I can play the Tim Walz audio for you because, again, as we're talking about Democrats trying to figure out where are the men, again, it's not that complicated to see. So I'll play the audio, see if you can hear it. But here's Tim Walz. This is an older clip. He talked about how Kamala chose him because he could code talk to white dudes. Let's take a listen.
I knew I was on the ticket, I would argue, because we did a lot of amazing progressive things in Minnesota that improved people's lives. But I also was on the ticket, quite honestly, because I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, doing that I could put them at ease. I was the permission structure to say, look, you can do this and vote for this. And you look across those swing states, with the exception of Minnesota, we didn't get enough of.
So there is Tim Walz. He was doing some recap about why he was chosen, why Kamala Harris lost so embarrassingly in the election in November. He was the code talker for white guys. He was the permission structure. I already know you're a clown if you use words like permission structure. Do you want to know how to win back the male vote? Don't speak in words like permission structure. But I'm a white guy and I support Kamala Harris, so it's okay for you to support Kamala Harris too. And I love the bragging that Democrats do. This is the summary of Democrats. Look at all the great progressive things we've done in Minnesota. We've done so many good things. And every single time, it's just more theft of your resources. They steal more money from you. Paul knows. Paul lives in Minnesota. We have a 10% state income tax, and Tim Walz is proud of that. He's proud of the fact that he can steal 10% of your earned income and then redistribute it, oftentimes corruptly, because Paul's aware of this as well in Minnesota. Feed Your Families, a group of Somalis stole $250 million during the COVID era because they were handing out money and food just willy-nilly, no oversight there, and it was ripe for the taking because all government is ripe for corruption. But he stole money from you. He implemented more programs that nobody wanted or needed, and he's proud of that. Hey, folks, look at what great work I'm doing. All I have to do, it turns out, is to steal more of your money, build more government, and make people less reliant on themselves and their family, and make it harder for them to pay for their mortgage and their food because I've stolen more of their income from them. They think this is a good thing. They think they're bragging about how we stole from you and then created a larger government. You want to win back the male vote? How about you let men take care of themselves? We don't want all these safety nets. We don't want all of our money taken from us. If I want to do charity work, and Christians and conservatives do more charity work than Democrat voters do, then I will choose to do that. I will go spend time at a soup kitchen. I will go to my church. I will tithe in my church because I know the church gives back into the local community. We can do all of that. We don't need government stealing from us and then deciding what government thinks is best to help people. And we talked about Gavin Newsom earlier. Then I think I'm going to wrap up the show here. We're coming up on the hour. I got 9 Rumble views right now. That's awesome, folks. Thanks for tuning in on Rumble right now. Gavin Newsom over in California, who I think will be the Democrat nominee in 2028, they have spent billions of dollars to solve the homeless problem, and all they have to show for it is more homelessness. Does anybody wonder why that is? If you feed the problem gets bigger. My garden outside, when I give it more water, it grows healthier. If I throw more money at homelessness, of course there's going to be more homelessness. Because if now I'm a director of some homeless program and I do outreach, my job security depends on there being homelessness. So I'm going to say, Gavin Newsom, we need $2 million this year. And look at this. There's so much homelessness. Next year, I need $4 million. Talk about job security. That person is made for the rest of their life getting taxpayer money to support their salary. And whether they solve it or not, and by solve homelessness, you mean just putting someone on the street into some government tenement building that they will continue to trash, because it turns out being homeless is not having a home problem. Giving a homeless person a home does not solve the problem. They are still addicted to drugs. They are still mentally unwell. They still have zero desire or ability to make their life better. So if I give a homeless person a home, turns out we didn't do anything. And it turns out as an individual, you have to want to get better to solve anything. So no matter how much money Gavin Newsom spends on the homelessness problem in California, I can tell you the correlation. The more money you spend, the more homelessness you will get, because you are now incentivizing more people to go there. Why would you be homeless in Nevada or Wyoming if you could be homeless in California and get more government money? You can have your little needle up shops right there. You can have a roof over your head, so when it's raining or too hot, you can go shoot up indoors instead, but you're not fixing the problem. And that's Tim Walz' right here. Yeah, we have so many progressive measures we've implemented, but then I would ask Tim Walz and any Democrat this: what problems have you actually solved? Do you have any measurable outcomes to say that these programs actually function the way that you said they would function? They always have these fancy names on the paper. We always throw a lot of money at them. But does the problem go away, or does the problem get bigger? I would wager every single time it gets bigger. All right, we got to get back to the chats here. Tim Walz is a rock with lips, says Paul. I like that one. Kagan Girl says they had to be one of the craziest tickets ever to run. I still can't believe Kamala Harris and Tim Walz got 48.3% of the national vote. 48.3%. I always put the caveat, yes, Donald Trump won every swing state. He won the popular vote. Notice that the conversation about, hey, let's just go to a popular vote, that kind of died away a little bit. It was only 1.5 points. There is so much work to do. Literally half this country voted for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, the worst ticket we have ever seen, the craziest ticket, the most progressive and communist ticket we've ever seen, and half this country wanted it. That election had to be rigged. How could Tim win in Minnesota? Tim Walz won re-election in 2022. This was at the height of BLM and COVID insanity. Tim Walz would march the National Guard down your street, and if you were playing on your lawn without a mask, they would arrest you. That's how crazy it was. Hope Walz's daughter would send messages to rioters to give them a heads up when the National Guard was headed their way so they could clear out. This regime was awful in Minnesota. Again, I've already stressed that we have a 10% state income tax, and Minnesotans elect him every single time. Minnesotans are an extra special, and it's not Minnesota nice. I always call it Minnesota naive. And Keith Ellison, Paul says, RIG, who's also a problem. I have seen stories now. Dustin Gage was writing about this on X. Keith Ellison might be primed to run for governor the next election cycle. And if we thought Tim Walz was bad, wait until Keith Ellison gets in the governor's mansion. And it is Minnesota. I think a Democrat will win no matter who they run. Keith Ellison just openly hates white people and Christians. Like, Tim Walz pretends to like whites and Christians. I'm the permission structure, he said. Keith Ellison could run on a platform of whites have had too much in this country. Whites are on stolen land. Christianity has been an evil on society. Look what it did to the indigenous communities. Keith Ellison could say all that campaigning, and white Minnesotans would still vote for him. And again, I talked at the beginning of the show about how they want to turn our country into South Africa. Minnesota is well on its way to being a kind of a testing ground for the larger national structure they want to implement. Minnesota could be like a microcosm of South Africa if we allow Keith Ellison and Tim Walz and Democrats to continue winning elections up here. They want whites in the minority, and as soon as whites get in the minority, they are going to absolutely crush them. It will never be enough. You could hand over your house and your bank account to some indigenous person or some black person. They would waste it all, spend it all, trash it all, and then they would say, what else do you have for me? Because you have not fully atoned for stealing my land hundreds of years ago, or putting me in slave hundreds of years, even though I was never a slave owner, even though 1.6% of whites in the South ever owned slaves, even though Indians were stealing land from one another long before we ever came here, but it's that dastardly white Christian European, it'll never be enough. How much is enough? I think in South Africa, it's not enough until they kill and murder every single last Boer over there. And that's what they want to do to America. They want to demoralize you. They want to steal from you. They want you to be killed. And they won't be content until every last one of you has checked all of those boxes. Yeah, Francis says you should run, Todd. I have made my ambitions clear on the show before. I fully intend to run for office here in Minnesota. I live in a 70-30 Trump district out here if I wanted to run for the Minnesota House, but it's on my radar. I got to be careful what I say on the podcast. That being said, I am not embarrassed about any of my positions, and I think people need to have honest conversations. So yeah, running for office, in the books for sure. And then Kagan Girl says, Jason and Todd with the American flag. Kagan Girl says he's a big idiot. I can't believe they picked him as VP. So this is a great comment to end the show on. Kagan Girl says, he's a big idiot. I couldn't believe they picked him as VP. But this summarizes Democrats. I began the show with an article today. It said Democrats are spending millions. They spent $20 million to learn how to speak to, quote, American men and win back the working class. They think that this is some problem that only they can solve. They already know that they're smarter than you and better than you. And so when we point out, can you just do policies that men like? Maybe allow us to go to work, Maybe allow us to keep our money. Maybe don't send us to die overseas. Maybe don't import all these third world people that our money, our income will have to support. Maybe don't let criminals back on the streets so that my kids can go to live in a safe neighborhood. And maybe don't brainwash them and groom them in school so my kids can. I went to a public school as a kid. Wasn't the best education, wasn't the worst, but my parents could send me there and not worry about what I was learning necessarily. There were some shenanigans, but I lived in like the typical 90s white middle class community. Like there were problems, but there weren't really problems in hindsight. It was good enough for my parents going to public school, good enough for me to go to public school. That's all we want. Can we just send our kid to a school system that's not going to turn them into gay communists? But that's asking too much. Yeah, that's all we want. It's pretty simple. Leave us alone. Democrats, you want to figure out how to win back the male vote? Stop being Democrats. That's basically the lesson of the story here. You can either be a Democrat or you can win back the male vote. You can't do both. If you want to win back the male vote, the young white male Christian vote in America, then you just have to stop being Democrats. I don't know what else to say about that. It's one or the other. You can be communist. You can have all your feminine energy. You can hate on men. You can invade women's spaces because it turns out we actually care about women. Did you remember the clip from Olivia Giuliana? She was like, yeah, the Republican Party. This is just about giving men permission to sexually abuse their wives, basically. Make the women submit to them in their life. Turns out we are the supporters of women because we want women to have their own safe spaces, if I can borrow a term from the left. We want women to be able to change in a locker room without some mentally deranged pervert spying on them. We want women to have their own athletic competitions without a dude crumpling them. I have 2 little girls. You can damn well be sure that I will never let them compete against men. I'm watching this story break out. It's a suburb called Maple Grove in Minnesota. There is a dude on the high school softball team as a pitcher just hurling grenades underhand to these poor female batters out there. You're talking like just some petite 15-year-old girl who was like, I like softball. I'm going to play softball. And she has to stare down a 6-foot left-handed dude just, again, launching these rocks at her face. My girls will never do that. So yes, I stand up for women because that's what men do. And I'm saying, no, this is insane. You don't get to be a guy and compete in women's sports. It's all upside down. So there's the message, Democrats. You want to win back the male vote? Stop being a Democrat. Stop pushing this insanity. And Paul, you tuned in today. You dropped the link. Let me give a little plug here. Folks, if you're enjoying the show, you want to support the show, you want to support people that support our show. Paul Reese is a subscriber to our other American Tribune channel. I don't have my American Tribune mug today, but I am drinking Split Rock Coffee. Folks, you can go to splitrockcoffee.com, use promo code TOD10. My parents have never been more proud of me. I became a promo code. Use promo code TOD10 when you check out at splitrockcoffee.com. Subscribe and save today. You can get deliveries set up where every single month, the amount of coffee you need for the next month delivered right to your doorstep. Paul and crew over at Split Rock Coffee are building I don't even know how many millions of dollars here. Just a fantastic new facility. They're going to do their grinding, their roasting, their shipping. It's going to be in one amazing new facility. But subscribe and save today. Again, get your fresh ground coffee delivered right to your door. I'm a breakfast blend guy. It's got a higher caffeine content. But when you go to splitrockcoffee.com, use promo code TOD10 for a little extra savings here. And you can support a disabled veteran-owned company right here in Minnesota where I live. Paul does some great work over there. Paul also, by the way, Paul, let us know in the comments below. You do a show with Hutch every Friday. You're going to want to check that one out too. Two military vets ranting about how insane the world is becoming. Great show over there. Paul, drop in the comments below what the name of that program is. It's escaping me right now. But Paul, thanks for your support. Thanks for Split Rock Coffee. And folks, thanks for tuning in today. We got 10 Rumble comments on the show right now. Yeah, I love it. Francis, Kagan Girl, Paul. We had Fally in the chats today. Thanks for sticking around, crew. Jason and I are going live tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central, Freedom from the Press podcast. That's going to be on our main Rumble channel, the American Tribune. But let me just cap up today here, folks. You're watching the American Tribune live with Todd Peterson. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. I love seeing the comments. I love seeing the crew show up for the show today. Lively comment section today. I'm sorry the videos did not work. That is Rumble Studio for you. I don't know how to share screens. Apparently, I don't know how to play videos today in Rumble Studio. But we like Rumble because we can say what we want. We can say what is true. We don't have to worry about censorship over here. And again, big shout out to our community for jumping in. Francis, Kagan Girl, Paul, Fally. Great to see everybody in the chats. Looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow when Jason and I go live again at 10 a.m. Central. Cold War Radio. Paul and Hutch are on Cold War Radio. Thank you, Kagan Girl. But with that being said, folks, I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday here. I'm excited to get back in the chair tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central. Freedom from the Press podcast on our main Rumble channel, the American Tribune. And if you want to see what's going around in the world, go to theamericantribune.com. We get 12 articles, new articles up every single day, so you can get a flavor of what's going on in politics, what's going on right now in the world, theamericantribune.com. But thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow. See you, Francis. See you, Kagan. See you, Paul. See you, Fally. Check you out tomorrow. Have a good one, folks.